She called me controlling and said good luck finding someone else. Then disappeared completely. My girlfriend has been ignoring me for 3 weeks over a money discussion. Am I crazy, or is this not normal? I don't even know where to start with this. I have been with my girlfriend Seline for 3 years, and I am starting to think I am losing my mind. 3 weeks ago we had what I thought was a normal conversation about money. We have been saving for a vacation together, each putting in $1,500. Last month I noticed she bought a $300 designer purse, and I asked if we could maybe discuss bigger purchases since it affects our vacation fund. I wasn't aggressive about it. I just said, hey, can we talk about big purchases before we make them, since we are saving together for the trip? She immediately got defensive. I don't need to justify my purchases to you, my money, my choice. I get that, I said, but we agreed to save together. That $300 was supposed to go toward our trip fund. Oh, so now you are monitoring my spending. Her voice started getting louder. What is next? You want to approve every coffee I buy? I tried to stay calm. That is not what I am saying. I just think when it affects our shared goals, we should communicate about it. Our shared goals, she snapped. You mean your goals that you expect me to follow, like some kind of financial dictator? I reminded her that we both agreed to save $1,500 each. We literally talked about this and made a plan together. And now you are acting like my father, lecturing me about money. This is exactly the kind of controlling behavior that ruins relationships. She grabbed her keys and said, you know what? Good luck finding someone else who will put up with your controlling behavior. Then she left. That was 21 days ago. She hasn't responded to a single text, call, or anything. Complete radio silence. I can see that she is reading my messages. They show as read, but nothing. I have apologized probably 15 times. I have explained that I wasn't trying to control her. I have asked if we can just talk. Nothing. Is this normal? Am I actually being controlling? I thought discussing shared expenses was just normal couple stuff, but maybe I am wrong. She has done this before, but never for this long. Usually when we disagree about something, she will go quiet for a few days, then act like nothing happened. But 3 weeks feels different. Last month she didn't talk to me for a week because I suggested we watch something other than reality television. The month before that, it was because I asked if we could split cooking duties instead of me doing it all the time. Every single disagreement ends with days of silence. I keep replaying her words in my head. Good luck finding someone else who will put up with your controlling behavior. Is that really what I am? Maybe other guys would just let their girlfriends spend whatever they want without question. I have been seeing a therapist, Dr. Martinez, for work stress, and I mentioned this to her. She called it emotional withholding and said healthy people don't punish their partners with silence. But honestly, I don't know what to believe anymore. I am supposed to be planning this vacation, but I cannot even get her to acknowledge I exist. I have driven by her apartment twice this week hoping to see her car, just to know she is okay. Yesterday I stood outside her door for 10 minutes apologizing to nobody. I feel pathetic. Is this what relationships are supposed to be like? Walking on eggshells, afraid to have opinions because they might trigger weeks of punishment. Has anyone dealt with this? Is asking about shared expenses actually controlling behavior? Because honestly, I don't know what to think anymore. Maybe I really am too demanding. And this is how she protects herself from my behavior. Edit. Thanks for the responses so far. Some of you are asking if this happens often. Yes, pretty much every time we disagree about anything she goes silent for days. I thought this was just how she processes conflict. Edit 2. A lot of people saying this isn't normal. That is both relieving and scary to hear. I have been wondering if I am the problem this whole time. Edit 3. Reading through all these comments is eye-opening. The number of people sharing similar experiences is staggering. I had no idea this was a recognized pattern. Update 1. I wanted to update because the advice from my last post really opened my eyes. A lot of you said this silent treatment thing isn't normal and that I should stop apologizing for having reasonable conversations. So I tried something different. Instead of sending my usual daily apology texts, I just didn't. For 4 days I didn't text, didn't call, didn't drive by her apartment. I focused on work, went to the gym, had dinner with my brother for the first time in months. It felt weird at first. I kept reaching for my phone to send her another "I am sorry" message, but I forced myself to stop. My friend Jake said something that stuck with me. "Dude, you are apologizing for asking about money. You both agreed to save. That is insane." Yesterday evening my phone buzzed. A text from Seline acting like absolutely nothing had happened. "Hey babe, wanna grab dinner tomorrow? I am craving that Italian place you like." I stared at it for like an hour. The casual tone, calling me babe, suggesting the restaurant I like, as if she was doing me a favor. After nearly a month of silence, she just expected to flip a switch, and everything would be normal again. Instead of my usual grateful response, I wrote back, "No thanks. I am not available." She replied within minutes, "Not available. Since when are you too busy for dinner with your girlfriend?" The entitlement blew my mind. A month of treating me like I don't exist, and now I am the problem for being busy. I wrote back, "Since you decided to punish me for a month for asking about our shared vacation fund." Then my phone started ringing. Over and over, I let it go to voicemail every time. She called 6 times in 20 minutes. When I finally answered, she was already angry. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she demanded. "Not even saying hello." "Nothing's wrong with me, Seline. I wasn't punishing you. I needed space to process what happened." For a month, without saying a single word, you know how I am when I am upset. I need time to work through things. I asked her how much time she needs to process me asking about $300 from our shared savings. How much processing does a simple budget conversation require? She got quiet for a second, then said, "I cannot talk to you when you are being like this," and hung up. 2 hours later, she was banging on my door. I could hear her in the hallway alternating between demanding I let her in and crying loud enough for neighbors to hear. Mrs. Peterson from down the hall actually poked her head out to see what was happening. I opened the door but didn't let her in. "We need to talk," she said, trying to push past me into my apartment. "Actually, we don't. You have made it clear, you don't want to talk to me. That is not fair, Gideon. What is not fair is disappearing for a month every time I have an opinion." She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I could see her brain working, trying to figure out why her usual approach wasn't working. "I don't do that," she said finally. "You have done it 18 times in the past year, Seline." I started keeping track. Her face went pale. I hadn't planned to mention the tracking, but Dr. Martinez had suggested documenting the pattern to help me see it clearly. "You are counting my processing time. I am counting the times you have emotionally abandoned me for days or weeks because I had an opinion you didn't like." We talked for over an hour standing in my doorway. She cried. She apologized. She promised things would be different. But then she said something that made everything crystal clear. "I just need you to be more patient with me when I need space. Not I will communicate better during conflicts. Not I will set reasonable boundaries around processing time. Just that I should be more patient with being ignored for weeks at a time." She was asking me to accept the punishment and be grateful for it. I told her I was done walking on eggshells and being punished for normal relationship conversations. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means I am done apologizing for having thoughts and opinions. I am done with this relationship." What followed was 2 hours of tears, accusations, and promises to change. She couldn't understand why I was giving up instead of working through our problems. She kept saying we could fix this if I just gave her more time and patience. But here is the thing. I have been working through this alone for 3 years while she disappears every time things get difficult. I have been patient. I have been understanding. I have been apologizing for existing as a separate person with my own thoughts. She left around midnight, and I haven't heard from her since. For the first time in years, the silence doesn't scare me. It feels like freedom. Dr. Martinez explained that what Seline does is called emotional withholding, and it is a form of psychological manipulation. Healthy people might need space during conflicts, but they communicate about it. They say, "I need an hour to cool down," or "Can we continue this conversation tomorrow?" They don't just vanish for weeks without explanation. The difference is communication versus punishment. Edit 1. A lot of people asking if I think she will actually change. Maybe she will for someone else, but I cannot sacrifice more years of my life finding out. Edit 2. Someone asked about the tracking I mentioned. I started writing down dates when she would go silent and how long it lasted. Seeing it on paper made the pattern undeniable. Update 2. I wasn't sure if I should post another update, but things have gotten pretty intense, and I could use some perspective. After Seline and I broke up, I focused on getting back to normal life. I started going to therapy regularly, spending time with friends I had neglected, and generally remembering what it felt like to exist without constantly worrying about triggering someone's disapproval. About 3 weeks ago, my coworker Jake invited me to a volunteer event for the animal shelter where his girlfriend works. I almost didn't go. Social events still felt emotionally exhausting, but Jake insisted it would be good for me. That is where I met Ivy. Ivy manages marketing for a nonprofit that provides job training for veterans. She is naturally quiet, but it is the kind of quiet that invites conversation rather than punishing it. When we started talking about animal welfare policies, we actually disagreed about something, whether no-kill shelters are always better than traditional shelters. With Seline, disagreeing about anything would have meant days of silent treatment. With Ivy, she just said, "I see it differently. Here is why." And we had this fascinating 20-minute discussion where we both learned something new. We exchanged numbers and started texting. Here is what blew my mind. Our conversations never stopped mid-sentence. No sudden silence. No punishment for having opinions. When she needed time to think about something, she would say, "Let me think about that and get back to you tomorrow." Then she actually would. The first time she did that, I panicked. My brain immediately went to, "Oh no, I said something wrong. She is going to disappear like Seline does." But the next day, she texted with her thoughts and continued our conversation like a normal person. We have been on 5 dates now. Last weekend we went to an art gallery downtown. Nothing dramatic, just 2 people enjoying each other's company without psychological games. She actually asked for my opinion about the artwork and listened to my answers without making me feel stupid or wrong. I posted a picture on Instagram, me and Ivy looking at a sculpture, her hand resting on my arm. The caption read, "Good company makes everything better." Monday morning my phone exploded. Seline had seen the post. The messages started at 6 a.m. and didn't stop. "I cannot believe you moved on so fast. Did our 3 years mean nothing to you? We could have worked through this if you hadn't given up. You didn't even try to fix things." Then they got angry. "You are such a coward for giving up on us. She looks boring as hell. You will be crawling back when you realize what you lost. I hope she gives you the same problems I did." Then back to desperate. "Please call me. I am sorry for everything. I can change. I am already working on it. Don't throw away working on it. Don't throw away 3-center end. We were good together. Remember the good times." The final text that really got to me. "You promised you would love me forever. You cannot just abandon me like everyone else has." Like everyone else has. That phrase stuck with me. I started wondering how many other people had walked away from Seline's silent treatment. Instead of responding to any of the barrage of messages, I blocked her number. But yesterday she showed up at my gym, just sitting in the parking lot when I came out after my workout. When she saw me, she got out of her car and approached like she had every right to be there. "We need to talk," she announced. "No, we don't. You cannot just ignore me forever. Seline, you taught me exactly how to ignore someone." I learned from the best. She flinched like I had slapped her. I could see her processing that her own tactics were being used against her. "That is not the same thing," she insisted. "How is it different? You are trying to force a conversation I don't want to have. Sound familiar? I never forced anything on you. You forced me to choose between having my own opinions and keeping the peace." Every single time we disagreed, she started crying then. The same manipulative tears I had fallen for dozens of times before. But Dr. Martinez had helped me understand the difference between genuine emotion and performance. "I am sorry," she sobbed. "I know I messed up, but we can fix this if you just give me another chance." "No, Seline, we cannot fix this because you don't want to fix the behavior. You want to fix the consequences." What does that mean? It means you are not sorry for 3 years of emotional manipulation. You are sorry that I finally stopped accepting it. I got in my car and drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I could see her waiting, probably expecting me to turn around and rescue her from the consequences of her own actions. I kept driving. Here is what I am learning about the difference between Seline and Ivy. When Ivy needs to think about something, she tells me. When she disagrees with me, she says so directly, and we talk it through like adults. When she is upset about something, she explains what is bothering her instead of disappearing. Last week, Ivy mentioned she wasn't sure about getting a dog yet when I brought up wanting one. Instead of vanishing for days to process this difference of opinion, she explained her concerns about her work schedule, and we had a productive conversation about timing and responsibilities. No punishment, no manipulation, no emotional warfare, just two adults communicating about a potential disagreement. It is honestly wild how different healthy communication feels. With Seline, I was constantly walking on eggshells, calculating whether my thoughts were worth the inevitable silent treatment. With Ivy, I can just exist as myself without fear of emotional exile. Edit 1. Someone asked if I feel guilty about blocking Seline. Number: protecting yourself from manipulation isn't cruel, it is necessary. Edit 3. A few people asked about Ivy's perspective on all this. She knows about my previous relationship and has been incredibly understanding. She said something that really resonated. I cannot imagine punishing someone I love just for having different thoughts than me. Final update first. The good news. Ivy and I are officially together now. She met my friends and family last month, and the difference in group dynamics is striking. With Seline, I was constantly managing everyone's comfort level, making sure she wasn't triggered by conversation topics, walking on eggshells around her moods. With Ivy, I can just exist as myself without fear of punishment. 2 weeks ago, Ivy said something that really hit me. I love that you are not afraid to disagree with me. I was starting to worry. You didn't have any opinions of your own. That is when I realized how much of myself I had lost with Seline. I would become a shadow of a person, always calculating whether my thoughts were worth weeks of silent treatment. Now for what I learned about Celine's pattern, which turned out to be way more extensive than I had imagined. Through mutual friends, I discovered she has been cycling through relationships at an alarming pace. 4 different men in 3 months. Each relationship following an identical script: intense initial connection, love bombing phase, first disagreement, silent treatment, confusion and desperation from the guy. Then, relationship implosion. Marcus, the most recent victim, actually called our mutual friend Sarah asking what was wrong with Seline. He had suggested they split dinner costs on their 5th date instead of him paying every time, and she had been ignoring him for over a week straight. Sarah told him to run. He did. But here is what really opened my eyes. Sarah revealed that Seline has been using the same tactics on their entire friend group. When their friends didn't support her version of our breakup the way she wanted, she gave several of them the silent treatment simultaneously. Emma, who had been Celine's closest friend for 5 years, finally had enough when Seline disappeared for 3 weeks over a disagreement about wedding planning. Emma had suggested that Celine's expectations for her role as maid of honor were unrealistic, and Seline responded with complete emotional withdrawal. Emma just stopped reaching out instead of chasing her silence. Now Celine's social media is filled with passive-aggressive posts about fake friends and people who abandon you when you need them most. She has created this victim narrative where everyone else is the problem while refusing to examine her own behavior. The pattern extends to her family, too. Last month, Celine's mother called me out of the blue. Apparently, Seline had been giving her the silent treatment for 6 weeks over some disagreement about holiday plans. Her mom was genuinely worried something terrible had happened. I kept it simple and suggested she recommend professional help, but hearing that Seline was using emotional manipulation on her own mother confirmed everything Dr. Martinez had told me. This isn't about processing emotions or needing space. It is about power and control through emotional withholding. My friend Jake admitted something that really drove the point home. He said he would deliberately never invited Seline to work events because she had given him the silent treatment after disagreeing with her political opinion at a party 2 years ago. I didn't want to deal with her drama at professional functions, he explained. It was easier to just not include her. I am realizing a lot of people had quietly removed themselves from Celine's orbit to avoid her manipulation. She had trained an entire network of relationships to fear her displeasure, but instead of giving her power, it gradually isolated her. Dr. Martinez helped me understand the psychology behind this behavior. She explained that people who use chronic silent treatment often have what is called emotional object permanence issues. They cannot maintain emotional connection when they are upset, so they withdraw completely rather than working through conflict. The tragic part, Dr. Martinez explained, is that this behavior pushes away the very people they claim to love most. Last week, I ran into Seline at the grocery store. It was unavoidable. We were in the same checkout line. She looked terrible, exhausted, isolated, like someone who had been carrying the weight of multiple failed relationships and burned bridges. She tried to start a conversation, asking how I was doing, mentioning that she had seen my Instagram posts with Ivy. Her tone was almost wistful, like she was hoping for some sign that I missed our relationship. "You look happy," she said quietly. "I am," I replied. "Honestly, I am working with a therapist now," she added, trying to understand why my relationships keep falling apart. I was genuinely glad to hear about the therapy, but I noticed how she phrased it, why my relationships keep falling apart, instead of why I keep sabotaging my relationships. Even in therapy, she was still positioning herself as the victim of circumstances, rather than examining her own behavior patterns. "I hope it helps," I said. And I meant it. She started to say something else, then stopped. I think she was going to ask if there was any chance for us, whether I might consider trying again if she changed. The answer would have been no, but not out of cruelty. It is because real change requires accountability, and Seline still couldn't take responsibility for the damage she had caused. As I drove home that day, I thought about the 3 years I had spent walking on eggshells, apologizing for having opinions, and accepting emotional punishment as the price of love. Seline's silent treatment was supposed to train me to fear her displeasure so much that I would give up my own needs to prevent it. But in the end, her silence only taught me what I didn't want in a relationship. The tragedy isn't that she lost me. The tragedy is that she has lost everyone who ever cared about her because she confused fear with love, control with connection. What saved me wasn't learning to communicate better or trying harder to understand her needs. What saved me was finally understanding that I deserved a relationship based on mutual respect rather than emotional hostage-taking. Ivy and I had our first real disagreement last week about whether to adopt a dog from the shelter where we volunteer. "Instead of disappearing," she said, "I need to think about this overnight, but let's talk tomorrow after work." The next day, we had a productive conversation about our concerns and reached a compromise. We are going to foster first to see how it works with our schedules. No punishment, no manipulation, no emotional warfare. Just two adults working through a difference of opinion like healthy people do. That is what love actually feels like. Safety, respect, and the confidence that disagreement will not result in abandonment. Her silence was supposed to punish me into submission, but in the end, her silence only punished herself, leaving her with exactly what she had always feared most, being completely alone. Real love stays and works through problems together, even when it is difficult. That is the love I have now, and that is the love everyone deserves. I will not beg for love. That was the moment I knew I deserved better, and I found it. Edit. Thank you to everyone who followed this story and offered support throughout this journey. Your comments helped me see that I wasn't alone and gave me the courage to leave. Edit 2. For anyone dealing with emotional manipulation, several people recommended Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. It helped me understand these patterns and realize they apply regardless of gender. Edit 3. The difference between healthy space and punishment is communication. Healthy people say, "I need time to think about this," and give you a timeline. Punishment is just disappearing without explanation. Edit 4. To the people asking if I regret the 3 years with Seline, number those years taught me to recognize manipulation and appreciate healthy love. Sometimes you need to experience what is wrong to fully appreciate what is right.